Those of you that know Hillary and I know that we've definitely done some interior painting over the years, and the paint application has always been brush and roller, obviously emphasis on rollers, and anybody that's done that knows it's quite slow. So with the size of the project that we're working on now, renovating this house to get it to sale, we thought maybe we should look into airless sprayer. So we finally, after researching, went ahead and pulled the trigger on that, and this is what we got right here. It's the Graco Magnum X5. It's available at Home Depot and a bunch of other places, and this video is just going to be me demonstrating setup, because if you're like us, I think one of the biggest things was, you know, how big of a ordeal is it to simply set these up and then to use them? What's the ease of use? And again, what's involved in cleaning them afterwards? And just really how complex of a piece of equipment is this? And I really think that that's kind of a daunting thing out there for the, you know, the home renovation level of user. And of course expense is an issue too, but I think if memory serves correctly, I think that we paid in the ballpark of $275 for this unit. So it's kind of a very minimal pro grade unit. It develops 3,000 psi, and it will drive up to 75 feet of line. And there are various tips for different spray patterns that are attachable to the gun. And so we're first going to go through the Know Your Controls. First thing is the power. The power switch is right here, on, off, pretty simple. The next thing is pressure. This right here is a pressure control. And later we'll get to it, but there's a spot right here in the middle which they consider the start point. And it also is the pressure where they deem that it's from that pressure higher, you are essentially in a range that's suited for spraying. And the other side of the unit is the prime spray switch, and that's right here. So this is the prime position, and that is the spray position. So we'll get to that later, its use, but the last thing the quick guide puts you through is familiarity with this gun. And basically you've got a lock which prevents you from triggering it. So it's locked, you can't accidentally trigger it. And your tip here, and this is the guard. So this is the guard, but the guard has the attachment to accept the tip. So this just finger tight is all you need. They've got it designed in a way that your fingers can grab it pretty well here, you can see. Even nicely tight. There's friction, but you're allowed to turn this. Of course, turning this changes your fan. This way the fan will be in this direction, your spray pattern. You turn it this way, you'll have a horizontal spray pattern instead. So if you loosen this up just a little, this tip will come out. Okay, here's your tip. Yep, let me turn it just a little tighter. This section right here represents an arrow pointing that direction. Now when you're spraying, you want this tip to be this direction with that arrow pointing this way, indicating your direction of spray, obviously. But there are various points in your process here that you may need to purge or clean the nozzle. So you rotate this back. Honestly, that's what I thought. You can do it with it pretty tight. You just have to do it the right way. If you trigger it, in this situation, when the thing is running, it'll just shoot a very narrow stream of paint, but the purpose of that is to purge the nozzle. All right, so now we're going to go ahead with the setup section and then proceed to the startup section on our quick guide. So here you can see that we have our waste bucket, we have a clean water bucket, and we have a paint bucket. Now what I'm going to do for the moment is cover the paint because we do not want anything in there. So paint bucket is covered. So our setup guide tells us that our very first thing is to make sure that this junction right here is tight. And there's Step 2 on the setup procedure is engage the trigger lock. So the trigger lock is right here. I've already demonstrated that, but here it is. We are trigger locked. We cannot trigger the gun. Step 3 is to turn the pressure control knob to the lowest setting. So here's our pressure control knob. We're turning it to the very lowest setting. There we are. Okay, so the setup phase on this quick guide is complete. We're moving on to the startup. Startup indicates that we plug this in. Step 2, separate the drain tube from the suction tube. So we have these little keepers here, and they just clip on. So we separate these two tubes. Yeah, actually it's probably easier to separate that one, isn't it? Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. We separate these two, and we place the drain tube in the waste pail. The small one is the drain tube. So this goes in the waste pail like so. The suction tube we submerge in water. This is the suction tube. That's the screen that keeps debris from going up. And we're simply going to put this in fresh water, like so. One clarification, we're using latex paint, and that's why this is pure water. You would use mineral spirits if it was oil-based. 3. Lift the prime spray valve to the prime position. This is that valve, and this is in that position. If it were not in this, if it was in the spray position, it would be here. The prime position is there. So we're moving that to the prime position, and then we're pressing the push prime button twice to loosen the inlet valve ball. Now that's this over here, which they didn't include actually in the Know Your Controls section. But so I'm pressing this twice. Now we turn the control knob to the start position, and we turn the switch on. So that's all part of number 3 on the startup guide. So we're going to the start position, which is right there. And we're going to turn the power switch on, but before we do, I'm going to read step 4 so that we know what we're doing when we turn the switch. Step 4, allow fluid to flow up the suction tube and out of the drain tube for 30 to 60 seconds. Then turn power switch off. So once we have outflow out of this drain tube, we go for 30 to 60 seconds and we turn it back off. So we're going to turn it on now. Startup section 5. Submerge suction tube in paint. Turn power switch on and watch for paint to come out of the drain tube. Then turn the power switch off. And of course, we're still green with this. We've used it some and we've liked the results, but one of the things that we learned quickly is the quicker you turn it off once you see paint coming, the less paint you waste. So whereas before we went 30 to 60 seconds, here the second we see paint, we are going to turn this off. Okay. I'm not entirely sure I'll see paint. I'm going to hold this high. Okay, we're going to turn it back on.
That's paint.
Item 6, rotate spray tip to the unclogged position. Remember, this is the spray position. This arrow indicates the direction of flow under normal circumstances, so we don't want it in the spray position. It says the unclogged position, so that would be
Other way.
yes, I'm turning it the wrong direction. So that's the unclogged position. It's the opposite of the sprayed position. So it tells us rotate the spray tip to the unclogged position. Disengage the trigger lock. Disengaged. Point the gun into the waste pail. Pull and hold the trigger. While I'm doing that, I am to lower the prime spray valve to the spray position and turn the power switch on. Power switch, and this is the prime spray position selector right here. So we're in prime position right now, and I'm not going to have any power to the gun, no pressure to the gun until I flip this down. So when this is here, it puts all flow to this waste tube. When I push it into the down position for spray, it then directs all of the flow to the gun instead. So oddly, 6 is like a preparatory step for 7, and in my view they should have been the same. Let's continue right on to 7. When paint comes out of the gun as you execute number 6, release the trigger. So that's odd, they should have had that in step 6. We're going to do everything that was just in step 6, and we're going to complete on the first sentence of 7, that when everything we did in 6 results in paint coming out of this gun, we release the trigger. I'm going to spray position on the spray prime valve, and I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to release my trigger only once I see paint come out. That was paint. It says engage trigger lock, transfer drain tube to paint pail over here, and attach to the suction tube. So you reattach these two. Then you rotate your spray tip back and make sure that your guard is tight, which is this thing that you've seen me many times rotate back and forth. So we make sure that that's good and tight. So those are things that we noticed that were critical, for the beginner. Obviously, we're not advanced users here, but we're already getting a quality result, which we like. And that really is one of the good things about this. As far as operation, as you'll see, it's not that sophisticated. You can get a really nice result easily.